Trigger warning: suicidal ideation, grief, and loss of a loved one. Hello, how are you? I hope you're well. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most melodramatic movies I have ever seen. Chemical Hearts. Lily Reinhart is in this movie, and even though I have some strong feelings about it, I think she did a great job. She really is a great actress, and it's kind of a shame that Riverdale can't help her out there. Spoilers for this movie, go watch it and come back as usual. Oh, and really quick about the speed paint. I didn't feel like drawing any scenes from this movie, so naturally I drew fan art of Riverdale. It still has Lily Reinhart in it, so that's really all that matters, right? So the first line of this movie is,
"You are never more alive than when you're a teenager."
While I understand where they're coming from when they say this, you know, with all the chemicals, I seriously hate that line. As someone who has had their teens and before taken up by severe illness, I would really hope that my 20s are just as worth living as my teens. And I get that as a 20-year-old, I'm probably not exactly the target demographic for this movie, but I watched this movie when I was first like 18 or something. Even if I watched it when I was 16, I would have felt the exact same as I do now. So the main character is named Henry, which I did not know until like halfway through the movie. I kept like trying to figure out what his name was, and I don't know if I just kept forgetting or if they did not say his name until like halfway through, but yeah, there's that. And what we learn about him throughout this entire movie is that his parents are unrealistic, perfect people who have a perfect relationship and have never struggled in this relationship ever. His sister was cheated on and is studying to be like a neurologist or something like that. He likes to write and break vases and put them back together, which is a Japanese art form that he does as a hobby.
Is not hobby for a 17-year-old boy.
He has a horrific mumbling problem, and he likes Grace. That's his character. I hate how he mumbles. I can barely understand language as it is. The last thing I need is a dude with a deep voice who can't enunciate. I know it's a part of his character, like he can't find the words when he speaks and all that, but I literally couldn't understand him. And I have, unfortunately, super hearing. The choice of Henry being the main character was definitely that. A choice. That's what I think it is. But I'll get to that more later. Grace is a new student at their school. She was recently in a car wreck. She has intense mood swings and is very, very emotional. She likes to write, but not since the accident, kind of like All the Bright Places, or actually exactly like All the Bright Places.
Somebody really important to me died, and I was asked to write something, to say something, like a eulogy. Nothing came. I just couldn't find the words.
So they start working on the paper together, and that's the premise of the movie. I think a good line to prepare you for the kind of emo angst that this movie is chock full of is this one from Grace.
When I look at that, it reminds me that people are just the ashes of dead stars. We're just a collection of atoms that come together for a brief period of time and then we fall apart.
Wow. Too deep for me. I bet the dude that wrote that line felt so good about themselves. They were like, yeah, I did that. 14-year-olds on Tumblr love me. So Grace and Henry have this weird thing where Henry is obviously in love with Grace, and Grace kind of likes Henry, but also kind of doesn't. But yes, but no, but yes, but not in that way, you know? Eventually, she's like, yeah, no, I actually do like you, and we get a lovely montage of them getting to know each other. Now, I understand Grace's confusion, because as we come to find out, she lost her boyfriend in the car wreck, and so she's grieving. And so while she does like Henry, she misses her late boyfriend and probably feels incredibly guilty for liking another guy. Understandable. But this is one of a couple reasons why I think this story should have been told from Grace's perspective. I will get into that a bit more later as well. So Grace, Henry, and their club are planning for the final paper. It's like this big project and they need to pick a theme, and unfortunately they do not go with the Alice in Wonderland theme like one of them suggested. I really like that idea, but they don't go with it. So Grace and Henry are at the library, and Grace has this big idea about how much suicide are in books that involve teen characters. Romeo and Juliet is the only one I remember, but she named a bunch of books. Anyway, she goes on about how painful teen years are and all that. And first, this freaks Henry out because Grace says she thinks about dying at night, and apparently he's never thought about dying, which makes me laugh because I think about death all the time, so I feel like that's unrealistic.
This is what you were up thinking about last night.
Yeah.
Was that normal?
Oh, Jesus.
What?
But Grace goes on about how she has thought about what it would be like if she were not alive, and how everyone does it, and the teenage years are limbo. And then we get this wonderful line.
The teenage years are limbo. The thing is, adults are just scarred kids who were lucky enough to make it out of limbo alive.
Wow. Confucius is quaking. Plato is absolutely shaking in his grave. Grace Town, or whatever her name is the next freaking Nietzsche. Come on. Pete Wentz wishes he wrote that line. Pete Wentz. Anyway, how melodramatic is that? I say again, Tumblr would eat this up. Oh my gosh. That line has big, suicidal people are just angels who want to go home vibes. So their big idea for the paper isn't exactly, have you ever thought of suicide? Well, we all have. It's because we're in pain as teenagers and no one understands us, like they suggest.
The theme of our last issue should be teenage limbo.
Adults are just scarred kids who are lucky enough to make it out of limbo alive.
It's more about how the chemicals in our brains are so intense as teenagers, and that's why we feel the way we do as teenagers. I'm 20. Remember how his sister is a neurologist? Also remember the first line of the movie?
You were never more alive than when you're a teenager.
So there's that. That's what they're working on. So now back to the relationship. This movie is full of just absolutely bizarre scenes. Like there's this one scene where Grace picks Henry up at his house and he asks, "Where are we going?" And she says, "You'll see." And then they go to the memorial of her dead boyfriend. The spot where he died. And then they kiss there. Like, what? That's one step up from kissing on his grave. It's so weird. So disrespectful. Like, what? It's also like that meme that's like, or that text exchange that's like, guess what? What? No, you have to guess. I don't know. Grandma's in the hospital. Like, what? Where are we going? You'll see. To my dead boyfriend's memorial. Oh my gosh. So their relationship eventually comes to an end when Henry figures out that Grace has been living with her late boyfriend's parents, sleeping in his room and wearing his clothes without washing them. She is clearly not over her late boyfriend, and he finally realizes this. They fight and break up.
I'm giving you all that I can.
Henry goes home, and this is just another thing that is just weird and completely unrealistic. His parents try to help him, but he just yells at them that they've had a perfect relationship for however many years they've been together, and that they've never fought once, and then that was confirmed by the sister.
Is it Grace? It's just regular shit that regular people go through that you are not going to understand.
Oh, come on, we're not regular people.
No. No, are you fucking kidding me? Your relationship's been perfect since you were like my age.
I got this.
No, we should go.
Mom, he's right. You don't understand.
I honestly expected the parents to go help him out and be like, oh, we have such a good relationship because we learned how to communicate because we used to fight. But no, they've just been perfect their whole lives? What? That's not humanly possible. But also, listen to what the sister says to Henry to comfort him.
You want the good news or the bad news? Well, the bad news is it's gonna hurt. It's basically withdrawal. Love, it's a chemical reaction that comes and goes. Here's the good news. So is heartbreak.
It's all in your head. What? Yeah? Duh? How is that supposed to help? She literally told him that breakups are just a chemical reaction, but so is love, and that he's just experiencing withdrawals. Okay, and how does that help at all? Hey, You know that drug you've become dependent on and addicted to? Well, when you stop taking it, you're gonna get the shakes, a fever, vertigo, depression, anxiety, sweats. You might even hallucinate and it's gonna hurt like hell, but guess what? It's just your body experiencing withdrawals. Just a little chemicals. A little withdrawal never killed anyone. It's just chemicals. Oh my gosh, she literally says the bad news is it's gonna hurt, but the good news is it's just withdrawals. How's that good news? That's literally so stupid. It doesn't help at all. When has it's all in your head ever helped anybody?
Love, it's a chemical reaction that comes and goes.
Wow, that took a nihilist turn. Love is nothing but a chemical. My Chemical Romance. It literally gets worse too. She says,
Would you take it all back if you could? You can't. She's a part of you now.
who is this helping? What is that supposed to do? It sounds like she's calling him stupid for liking this girl. Would you take it all back if you could? Well, you can't, dumbass. Good going falling for a girl who's emotionally unavailable. Seriously, this is the worst pep talk ever. There's Other Fish in the Sea would have been better than this. But here's the thing, I think it runs in the family because Henry is not any better. There's this scene where Grace is having a breakdown because when she and her boyfriend, Dom, were in the accident, her thought right before it happened was shit.
My last thought before it happened was shit. The last thought I was about to have in my entire life was shit.
So she was feeling really guilty that her last thought wasn't going to be about her boyfriend.
Does that make me a bad person?
So she asks Henry what he thinks Dom was thinking about when the crash happened. And homeboy was literally like, yeah, he was definitely thinking about you.
I was thinking about you, Grace. Guaranteed.
How would that make her feel better? Yeah, your boyfriend was a better person than you, lol. When I was watching for the first time, I thought he was gonna say something like, yeah, he probably thought shit too. But no. I'm surprised he didn't tell Grace that grief is just a chemical. Anyway, so Grace and him stay broken up, which I actually like, and Grace starts therapy.
I'm taking a year off, continuing therapy.
Which, good for her, woohoo. Everybody could use a little therapy every now and again. An actually realistic and healthy ending. I like that they didn't try and force them together, you know? So let's go back to why I think this should have been told from Grace's perspective. I think it could have been so much better from her perspective because instead of a movie about grief, it's a movie about how a grieving girl messed with some dude's head. Like, if we were told the story of Grace grieving her boyfriend and her old life and her crappy childhood and the confusion and guilt she felt as she starts to move on, could have been really powerful. But instead we get Henry's perspective, which adds essentially nothing. We find everything out about Grace with Henry, but that's it. It doesn't add anything to the story. We're just as confused as Henry, and Grace is not put in a good light, which yes, grief and pain are not excuses to treat people badly, but why is this the story we're being told? I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me, especially because with Grace's mood swings, she's not nice. She lashes out at Henry, and she doesn't need to be nice, but I think this could have been way more sympathetic and understandable and even relatable if it came from Grace's perspective. I think it just would have been a lot more powerful if it came from Grace's perspective rather than Henry's. Also, Henry is not interesting enough of a character to be the main character. I know they gave him his quirky hobby, but no. I think the only reason why they gave him that hobby was for this line.
It's not when you realize that I'm not one of your fucking bosses, okay?
I'm not one of your vases that you can fix. One last thing I want to point out is Henry is friends with Ed Sheeran. Okay, that's it. about Chemical Hearts. Do you like that it's told from Henry's perspective, or do you think that Grace's perspective would have been better? Do you think this movie is deep, or do you think it's melodramatic? Or both? Let me know. Did you need to turn on closed captions because of Henry's mumbling? Because I sure did. Let me know. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all later.